Hey, everyone, from KQED in San Francisco, this is Political Breakdown. I'm Marisa Lagos.
And I'm Scott Shafer. Today on The Breakdown, Governor Gavin Newsom. The governor joins us as President Donald Trump backs off threats of immigration raids and troop deployments to San Francisco, even as questions remain about other Bay Area cities, and as troops remain in L.A., Chicago, and Portland.
Newsom is also campaigning to pass Proposition 50. That's the ballot measure to redraw the state's congressional districts to help elect more Democrats. Last time we had him on the show was at the 2024 Democratic Convention. A few things have changed since then. Yeah. Governor Newsom, welcome back to Political Breakdown.
Good to be back with you. Thank you.
And we should say you're joining us today for our very first videotaping of Political Breakdown. That's going to drop on YouTube.
And hopefully not the
soon,
last.
So thank you.
God, which camera do I look in? This is exciting.
Just look at us.
There
it's
it is.
Fine.
Okay.
All right. Well, on a more serious note, we saw this week the dispatch of immigration and border patrol agents to Alameda County. And after a lot of fear and activation in the Bay Area, Mayor Daniel Lurie of San Francisco said that he spoke with President Trump Wednesday night, and the president agreed to call off federal deployment. What's your kind of broad reaction? Were you surprised? And what do you think this means?
Well, I mean, it was so absurd, the pretext of it, to come into a city for what purpose, what cause, to address what protest, to address what crime wave. I mean, all the statistics bear that out. We can regale everybody that crime trends in the last couple of years have moved significantly lower, and you're seeing historic reductions as it relates to homicides, now 60 years, 70 pace this year, and, of course, violent crimes, burglaries, car thefts, even issues around quality of life improving in the city, and, of course, the economic growth that we're experiencing. So there was no pretext to begin with. So it just was all to gin up fear, anxiety, to continue to coerce, continue to scare, and ultimately to continue to suppress, which is a big part of this larger narrative, the vote this November.
It seems like San Francisco's off the hook for now, but do you think there may be ICE raids in other cities or some kinds of confrontations? We've already seen that at the Coast Guard
Well,
station.
I mean, the chill, the fear, it's. I mean, I've been come down to Los Angeles. I mean, experiencing it right now. People scared to go out to the playground or park. People still scared to go to school, though the superintendent down there has done a magnificent job of encouraging that, working very closely with families and nonprofits and parents groups. But look, this is we said this months ago when the National Guard were federalized, 4,000. I'll remind people because you hear the couple hundred in Portland, a few hundred in places like Chicago. 4,000 National Guard were federalized in California. 700 active duty Marines were not sent overseas. They were sent to the second largest city in the United States of America. Close to 5,000 troops. You still have 300 federalized troops. Not now in Los Angeles. 201 are up in Portland. 14 are doing training exercises in Chicago. And 85 are sitting around doing absolutely nothing in Southern California. The expectation to your question is that they will be utilized because they were just extended under federal status.
I mean, if you're in Oakland, would you be worried about
throughout the Bay Area, Northern California, not just Southern California. Again, all of this is a preview of things to come. ICE agents, Border Patrol coming into inland America, not just sitting there on the border. This guy, Greg Bovino, who's their big spokesperson. Watch wherever he goes. That's where the cameras are. That's where their social media feed is. And that's where the narrative is being driven. And so he's in Chicago, but if he comes back to California, watch that space. If he's in Northern California, watch his movements in that respect, because that's a preview of the playbook, which is go out, get the masked men out in the streets, gin up anxiety, fear, anxiety that ultimately will lead to people expressing themselves, and then the Guard follows up, and then that gives the justification that Trump is looking for.
Yeah, I mean, out in Alameda, they're at a Coast Guard facility, I think still staging. We've seen protests. Coast Guard said they shot at a truck last night. Can you tell us anything about that? And I know CHP has had to respond to some of the protests.
Well, we had 2 arrests yesterday in the East Bay. We don't know, and by the way, don't have any insight as to whether or not ICE or Border Patrol are still even there. And whether or not they've been pulled back. Still getting clarity on that. But we had 100, 150 protesters yesterday. There were 2 arrests, one incident that was unfortunate with the CHP officer that was attacked, and that individual was arrested and is in custody. But last night, there was a particular incident that's separate and above from the protests, and that was this U-Haul truck that came in. Coast Guard was concerned. It looked to appear to try to ram some of the Coast Guard assets, and there were shots fired, and an innocent bystander was hit and injured. The FBI is investigating all of this. Currently, at least on the basis of the information I got this morning, the driver himself or herself escaped, and they're still looking to be apprehended.
What do you make of the tack that Mayor Lurie has taken? Talking to the billionaires, talking to Ron Conway, talking to Mark Benioff, and then having them call the president. Like, what advice would you give to him?
I think it's all good. I mean, I think those were determinative, those phone calls. I mean, Mark's call and Jensen. I know there were a number of others because we were all in these
Jensen, NVIDIA,
CEO, NVIDIA.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were all in these with Ron and everybody texting back and forth and all these things. But look, this is the golden goose for the Trump family. This is not just golden goose for the American economy. I mean, AI, the center of the universe in California, Bay Area, crypto, and all the benefits that inure directly to the President of the United States. I mean, don't mess with a good thing. He's got David Sachs out here. He's got Chamath, who's doing business with his son in a new SPAC with a member of the primetime lineup at Fox News. Laura Ingraham is in business with Donald Trump Jr., and this guy Chamath out here
SPACs are back,
doing
apparently.
SPACs.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. Member of the media in business with a member of the family who happens to live out here as well. Don't think all these things aren't connected. So those phone calls were determinative, period, full stop. And that's a unique asset, literally, not just figuratively, that California has. And then, of course, the temperance of the mayor, just credit to receive the phone call. And we've all been on those phone calls and to appropriate themselves accordingly. And so it didn't surprise me on that basis. But obviously, that's a unique circumstance, and this is a unique moment.
I mean, at the beginning of the year, you took a more conciliatory approach to Trump as well during the LA fires. We've seen Lurie really try to keep the president's name out of his mouth, not be aggressive. Like,
he has the luxury of doing that.
Yeah.
So I have no advice. I mean, look, he's got a different set of circumstances. He's got different expectations in terms of keeping this momentum going in San Francisco, and so I think he's doing a great job. And so I offer no advice to counsel. I'll see him in a couple hours. I see him all the time. Of course, their family, Becca, the First Lady, works with me, and she has for decades. And so I've just great respect for the work he's doing, great partnership with the state of California. By the way, we have 20 people. I don't know why this is not more discussed, but we've, for a couple of years, have had National Guard working in San Francisco. We have counter-narcotics drug task forces. We've been working collaboratively with the city. We have a JAG in the DA's office. We have 26 National Guard working in counter-narcotics in San Francisco and the region, again, in collaboration and partnership. We have the CHP. We have done that for a few years, as you know, these CHP operations, significant increase in those operations in the last few months, not reacting to Donald Trump, but proactive policing efforts. No one's denying we can't do more on quality of life, crime, and violence. We're doing that, and we're not just doing that in San Francisco. You notice the work we've done in Oakland, we've done in Bakersfield, San Bernardino, extended it down to Los Angeles, and we've invested over $1 billion, $1.1 billion into our crime suppression efforts and grants, vertical prosecution grants, the DAs and sheriff's departments all across the state, and we're seeing the benefits of these historic investments in terms of reduction of crime statewide as well.
Yeah.
The Department of Justice announced today that they're going to have monitors at polling places in California, L.A., Orange County, Kern County. You've talked about normalizing the sight of troops in anticipation maybe of 2026. What are your thoughts about this?
They're rigging the election. They're creating the pretext that after we're successful with Prop 50, after there's a Democratic governor in New Jersey, there will be one in Virginia, unquestionably, that they can suggest somehow these were fraudulent. These elections were rigged against them. This is a preview of 2026. Wake up, everybody. I mean, what more? They're just doing it in the open. They're doing it out loud. He's not just trolling you. I was in the Oval Office with Trump, back to your question about how do you work with Donald Trump. And you don't work with him. You work for him, period, full stop. You have these momentary opportunities. Look, I'm an expert in this. You're talking about someone who worked with him during COVID that has been, spent 90 minutes in the Oval Office just a few months ago as he was regaling me about 2028. in his third term. You heard Steve Bannon today in a podcast that came out late last night talking about, yes, we're pursuing a third term. He's not screwing around. What's the Election Rigging Response Act? Why is Prop 50 called the Election Rigging Response Act? It's in response to an unprecedented assault on midterm redistricting. Not just, and we said it's not going to just be Texas. It hasn't been. You saw what happened earlier this week in North Carolina, in Missouri, what Ron DeSantis will do in Florida. These guys are not screwing around. I said it very clearly after the Guard was federalized. This is a preview of things to come at voting booths and polling places across this country as he's rolling these folks out around Election Day. You'll see that all across this country. What he just did this last week was part of that suppression. You don't even have to do it to impact people and their lives and their anxiety. How many people didn't go to school in the last couple of days? How many people didn't go to get that immunization shot for the seasonal flu in the last few days at a community clinic because they were scared to death? I don't think this. I know this because we were in those conversations, not just with the mayor's office, but with the region and all of our immigration advocates. But you're also going to see ICE deployed. You're going to see these masked men from Border Patrol, also near voting booths and polling places. Forgive the long-windedness. Yes, the DOJ is part of it. It's the stack. And the DOJ should scare the hell out of everyone listening. Forgive the word. They just sent out, if people don't know this, please pay attention. The DOJ just sent out election monitors for a state ballot, for a state constitution. They have no basis and they have no business for doing that. They will not be allowed to access the back rooms, and they watch this. They will then express discontent with that. They will then suggest after we win, because we will and we must, that somehow the election was fraudulent. This is a setup for 2026. He has to take this House, he has to keep it in the hands of a supine Congress, which means he needs Speaker Johnson, not Speaker Jeffries. Because if we have Speaker Jeffries, de facto, the Trump administration ends as we know it. We will finally have a co-equal branch of government. We will have the capacity of oversight that quite literally does not exist today. So it's all on the line. And so Prop 50 is not about drawing lines. It's about the fate and future of this republic. It really is. And that is not me hyperventilating when I say that. That is a sober, I believe, analysis of the facts.
I want to talk to you more about Prop 50. This is something that kind of started percolating this summer. And I'm curious, when it first came up, I believe national Democrats, some of the House leaders on the Democratic side approached California. What was your initial reaction?
We got a call from a member of the legislature, or rather the state legislature in Texas, and said, would you be willing, would the governor, it came to my staff, I got a call from my staff member saying, we've been asked to put out a tweet because Donald Trump appears to have made a phone call to Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott appears, and I remember this, it doesn't look like Abbott's going to move. Abbott said he said he was a little uncomfortable with the request from the president because he knew, everyone knows better. They're just not doing better. It's unlikely to happen, but it'd be great if you guys say we're watching. Just as a way, it would distill a sense of well-being for our Democratic colleagues. So we put out a little tweet. I went out about my business. It was the last thing on our mind. And a few days later, we get another call saying, hold on, the president just made a follow-up call to Greg Abbott and said he's quote-unquote entitled. Quote-unquote entitled. Again, chills up your spine if you're not. If you don't have chills up your spine, you're not paying attention. Said he was entitled to those 5 seats. And it was inevitable then he was going to get them. Greg Abbott obviously moved that process forward. And we, as a consequence, moved our process forward. And I called up.
Did you have any misgivings?
This was not the fight we wanted to have. I supported, and I was mayor of San Francisco at the time, was one of the few Democrats that came out against the repeal of the independent redistricting because I believe in it. And I was very proud of our Democrats in Congress that supported the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that affirmed a national desire for independent redistricting reform. So, yes, very hesitant. And that's why we checked in with Zoe Lofgren, checked in with Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Emeritus, and then she said, no, this is Zoe. She's the head of the delegation. And they processed in a matter of days, which surprised me, a universal consensus saying we want to move forward. And on that basis, we sat down with party leaders in the state. And I was surprised because, and remember, I say this with love and respect, but if you're a member of the legislature, you're likely looking potentially running for Congress. And they said, the leadership said, we get it. And they moved 2/3, moved the maps forward, and we did this process to do it on a temporary basis, to do it on a transparent basis, and a democratic basis. And that was the predicate to which I would then support.
So obviously this is being framed as a way to push back on Trump, and it is, perhaps. But I'm wondering, like, we have, I think, 9 of the entire delegation to Congress are Republicans. This could bring it down to 5. That means that people in places like Reading could be represented by somebody from Marin. And they have a lot of concerns about not being heard, that their values aren't being represented. What do you say to them?
Well, I appreciate those concerns, and they should, I think, have real grievance expressed around what Donald Trump has done to them.
But in terms of Prop 50?
What Donald Trump has done to them. Cause and effect. We're responding to Election Rigging Response Act. This was a trigger. Remember, this process was only going to take place if they moved forward. And we expressed concern about that. We've all expressed concern about this. This is not the way we should be doing it. And Prop 50 actually makes that point. Not only is it temporary and transparent, again, the commission we're not eliminating the commission. It retains itself for Board of Equalization, state Senate, and Assembly seats. It just temporarily changes for 3 cycles, 26, 28, and 30, and then reverts back.
And you're committed to that reversion?
Well, that's in the letter of the law. I mean, it is the constitutional amendment. Absolutely committed to that. And it reverts back just for the congressional maps in response to this crisis of Trump's making. We also, though, the difference between what we did and what we're doing is we didn't draft these in Mar-a-Lago. These are put in front of the voters, the first time in U.S. history. Redistricting maps have been given to the people themselves to decide for themselves, and we respected the Voting Rights Act. Complete contrast to what just happened in North Carolina, getting rid of Dan Davis's seat, African-American, getting rid of Jasmine Crockett's seat, African-American woman in Texas. I mean, it's disgraceful what is going on in those other states.
One of the primary opponents is your friend Arnold Schwarzenegger, who pushed the initial ballot measure to create the Citizens Commission. He's been a little low profile. He hasn't hit the campaign trail. He did one speech. Do you think he has mixed feelings about it? I'm sure you've talked to him.
Oh yeah, we spent time together before he came out against it. Obviously, I didn't persuade him.
Did you persuade him to maybe back off a little?
Look, we've known each other. He's been incredibly respectful of a lot of the work. Given he's an old friend, meaning I'm someone that can call up. He's going to answer. If we need help on something, he's going to show up. He was incredible during COVID. I had Pete Wilson, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Gray Davis, and Jerry Brown doing these weekly Zooms, which in and of
Never
itself,
thought we would see that.
No,
really.
I mean, and by the way, I wish we could see that because that would have been a hell of a series. I wish we had recorded them. Just those guys going back and forth, comparing and contrasting on emergency preparedness. Arnold's been out on a lot of climate issues. We share so many of the same values, and I think we share the same values on independent redistricting. I'm a champion. I believe in it. That's why we're affirming it. That's why this is temporary. That's why this is transparent. It's a response to this crisis that he recognizes as a crisis. No one's denying that. He's certainly not. He's one of the most un-Trump people I know. But he feels obviously deeply identified with it. And so I certainly understand his opposition, but I disagree with it. Yeah.
I want to move on and talk a little bit more broadly about the Democratic Party and sort of what's happening nationally. In the spring, you launched a podcast, which was, I would say, at the beginning, widely panned on the left.
Was I that bad? I mean,
well,
it was.
You
they just didn't like my guests.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
I want to talk about
Michael
Kirk's
Savage,
episode a little bit because
well known in the Bay Area. Savage Nation.
Got to start here.
Newt Gingrich. Can we keep going? This was quite a
I
lineup.
The All Stars.
It was.
I want to talk about the Kirk episode specifically because I was a little surprised at how conciliatory you were to him. I felt like there was moments where he misstated your record, details about bills you signed. You did not challenge him. You are, I think, known for being a pretty willing to debate.
When I feel strongly about issues. Yes.
Have you listened back to that? Do you have any regrets about not pushing back?
Because that's why I told everyone I was going to do, and that's what I did.
But it was more of an exchange with like the Bannon conversation.
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, you guys are pros. I decided I had 0 downloads and decided to come up with a podcast idea. So my platform existed of quite literally, had the form and substance of fog. There was no there. So we had this first, I reached out, and he was the first one to get back to me and said, I actually will fly out. I said, that's remarkable. I guess we'll kick it off with you. And I said, I want this to be a civil conversation because I don't think enough Democrats know what you do and how successful you have been as it relates to Turning Point USA and how you've turned out people. And so my commitment to my listeners and viewers was this is not a Ron DeSantis debate with Sean Hannity on Fox.
Which you also did.
Which I do all the time. If you want that, go watch the nighttime lineup. And so we engaged in a civil dialogue, and I extend that to everyone I've had on, and we've done dozens and dozens on the left and the right. And it's my opportunity to invite people in and to understand different points of view and to show respect for people's humanity, even if we deeply disagree with them. And, get credit. You don't have to listen to it. It's an amazing thing.
It's my job.
I know it's your job,
Well,
but I thought it was important. I think it's important. Divorce is not an option. I'm serious. We can go into our little corners. We can act like the other side doesn't exist. We can start doing litmus tests to everyone that walks down the street and wants to get a selfie. Where were you on this issue? Where were you in 2004? You didn't believe in marriage equality? Boy.
Okay, let me push back, though. Charlie Kirk said stoning gay people is God's perfect law. He made
said some
horrible things about transgender people,
of course he said.
about women.
Of course he said. A lot of those. I mean, tons of people that have had.
But that's not like a litmus test of sort of just like general political policy disagreements.
We vehemently disagree. We do not see the world with the same set of eyes.
Well, one of the things you did agree with him on is trans athletes.
On the sports issue.
Yeah, and so that was what got a lot of attention
Yeah.
and a lot of criticism. A lot of trans people and their families felt kind of thrown under the bus. So what exactly, when you said it was deeply unfair for them to participate?
Because I believe that.
What do you mean?
What is unfair how and when and where?
Well, we've had the experience in California on multiple occasions.
So high school?
Yes, these track meets. And I've had to deal with it. Others haven't. Going back years, and I've struggled with this. I brought in experts, tried to understand how do we make this more fair. We had a track meet where both the trans athlete and the other athlete that lost both dropped out of the finals because we couldn't figure out a way to accommodate everybody's concerns. And there was so much vitriol and so much anger around it. A year later, we had a similar experience, and we have people that are not even competing and dropping out. And it created a lot of stress and anxiety. And I was trying to find a way to balance this because there's not one person you've ever had on air that has a better record on trans rights than this person you're talking to. Period, full stop. I have signed more bills protecting trans folks than anyone you've ever had on this air. I have appointed more people to positions of power and influence as it relates to trans than any other major elected official, from judicial appointments to a significant appointment I just made in terms of our retirement system just a few weeks ago. It's a point of pride that I've done that. Signed one of the most progressive bills just a few months ago as it relates to teachers and schools. And I've been criticized by the right for those bills, but it was the right thing to do. I don't roll people under the bus, quite the contrary. I was out there, Scott, you may recall, was a mayor attacking HRC because they weren't including trans rights back in 2004, 5, 6. But when it comes to sports, that's impacting other people's rights. It's different. And I say this with a trans godson. I have only one godson who's trans. And so with love and grace in my heart, and in that exact exchange with Charlie, I said, these people just want to survive. Listen to my entire quote. I hope people actually listen to the episode. Want grace. And so I disagree with all the vitriol, but I agree on the issue of fairness in that respect, that it is unfair in these circumstances, and I haven't been able to reconcile it. Good people can, but it was an experience for me born over the actual application and responsibility as governor to try to figure this out, and I couldn't. And maybe other people can, but I haven't been able to figure it out.
So do you think there should be changes to state law which explicitly allows transgender students in K-12?
I think we have to figure this out. It's a difficult. This is not the issue. And what I hate about the other side, they're coloring this in as it's a major issue, and
but it
weaponize
is the issue to trans kids who. I mean, you know how important sports are. Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
Competing in sports, I think, is essential. It's life. It's the lifeblood for so many people, including me. It's one of the reasons I'm here, quite literally. The reason I got into college. So I please apply that. But with these competitive events where it's a zero-sum game.
Do you think there's a difference between competitive and like recreational?
Yes, and that's where there needs to be nuance and some
Yeah.
grace here, but there's not. It's either you're throwing on the bus, it's binary, and I hate that, and forgive that, Frank, but it's really true. It's black or white, and I just think there's some nuance here, and so I said what I thought.
Yeah.
And you know what? I can't tell you how many people have a similar point of view.
Yeah,
but
well, it's one of those.
but don't say it publicly.
Yeah.
And I think that's even more shameful in many respects than being held to account for your points of view.
Yeah. I want to move on a little bit here and talk about 2024, 2026, and Joe Biden. You stuck with Joe Biden for a very long time, even after that disastrous debate performance, which is admirable in some ways. But do you have any thoughts about that now, looking
Go
back
home with
on
the
it?
one who brought you the dance. In the absence of any alternative, in absence of that, I wanted to have the back of someone I admire, someone I believe in, someone who supported 400 bipartisan bills, who did more to address the issue of wealth inequality, and someone that actually produced more significant legislation than any other president in my lifetime, from the IRA to the CHIPS and Science Act to the historic work he did on infrastructure.
Was it selfish, though, of him to continue?
That was for him for not me to make that determination. In the absence of him making that determination for himself, I felt like I needed to have his back, and I was proud to be one of the last people standing. I watched people abandon him. I watched people turn on him. I
Nancy
didn't think
Pelosi.
he deserved that. I don't think he deserved that, and I'm proud of the fact that I stood up for him, and I'm proud of the fact that he was our president. 15.4 million jobs created. This is a guy, the bottom 40% saw the biggest wage earnings. He brought an industrial policy that was worker-centered. This is someone who delivered real results for the American people. And I think he will go down legislatively as one of the most consequential presidents in the last half century potentially. And so I was proud to go out there and support him. And I'll tell you, as someone that was with him and worked with him and talked to him as much or more than most, I didn't see all that stuff that everybody else saw. I saw it with one exception, and that was a fundraiser in Southern California, that George Clooney fundraiser, where he literally just came back from Europe, and he had been there twice in a week. And any of us would have been in a difficult spot physically, but obviously that followed up to the debate. And I was doing the debate spin room. I was the sort of chief spokesperson, and I did my job, and I did what I thought was right. And I'm just not someone who's going to turn my back on someone, even if I disagree with something, or even if I have, I just believe, again, you go home with the one who brought you to the dance.
Looking forward, though, how important do you see sort of generational changes for Democrats in this moment?
I'm a time of life, not a state of mind. I mean, or vice versa. I think it's not a litmus test of age necessarily. It's the quality of imagination, as Bobby Kennedy said. I think if we get stuck on age, it's Jerry. You've got all the Jerry Brown memorabilia behind you. It's again not a time of life. It's a state of mind, and I think that's, to me, what we should focus on more, as opposed to some numeric.
Yeah, as you know, there's a fervor among a lot of Democrats to have younger people running against some of these incumbents. Nancy Pelosi has not. She's 85 years old. She hasn't announced yet if she's running. Scott Wiener, along with Chakrabarti, Shrikat Chakrabarti, who used to work for AOC, are running. Would you, if she steps aside, would you endorse
I haven't even
Scott
thought
Wiener?
about this. I mean,
Yes, you have. Come on.
I actually really haven't. I mean, in terms of Scott just jumped in, I think, yesterday or something. So I haven't thought this through. I got a text from him saying I'm jumping in. I said, I think I read a few things about this. So I don't know what Nancy Pelosi's doing, but I'm with Nancy Pelosi. Because no one, period, full stop. I don't even have to say this, has delivered more for this district, for San Francisco, the state of California, than Nancy Pelosi, period, by factors of almost infinity in terms of actually delivering real results for real people. So,
and has not slowed down. It doesn't
as
seem
not only
at
not
all.
slowing down, she's a workhorse. She's dominating on the Prop 50 stuff. She's just at a different league, folks.
But do you understand why younger folks are saying it's time?
But that's right. But you know what? And they'll make that determination. That's what the process is all about. But I'm, and by the way, Scott's fantastic. I mean, we've been doing some work together the last few years on housing and homeless. I mean, it's next level work he's been doing on housing with, amazing Buffy Wicks. I mean, it's just been extraordinary. So, mad respect for Scott. This is not a compare and contrast in that respect, but it's just Come on, I was a San Francisco supervisor in District 2 and the Presidio and the work we did, and Chrissy Field, and I mean, I could just go through a list. We spend the day here and from Treasure Island to Bayview Hunters Point to everything in between, and I've seen her deliver over and over and over again. You can never take that for granted, and we're looking for the next best thing. You may never get something like this back. It will take 40, 50 years for someone to build the kind of credibility that she's built, and the influence and the capacity to deliver is Nancy Pelosi.
I mean, Trump aside, Pelosi's very impressive record aside, the Democratic Party seems to have an image problem. Polls show Democrats at historic lows among voters, and I'm curious, how in this moment, given everything we talked about at the top, what can you and other Democrats do to rebuild this brand?
You win. Our problem right now is weakness. We got to win. Strength. Not holding hands, not having candlelight vigil, not writing an op-ed in response to Greg Abbott, not trying to make a point, but make a difference. These guys are consolidating power as we're trying to, express how right we are on issues.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of people saying, who are critics of you, oh, you're just getting into the mud with Trump, talking about the social media strategy, all that stuff.
Great. Let's sit back and let's be supine.
Yeah.
Let's just, let's watch 249 years just thrown out. I mean, honestly, we can do that, and then we can act morally superior and judgmental, and we can say, boy, this is really unfortunate. And we can all just sit there smugly.
Well, that's kind of what happened
as we're
at the
quite
beginning
literally
of Trump.
losing our country. And so, I'm pushing back and doing it substantively, 43 lawsuits, doing it substantively through Proposition 50 meaningfully, and also stylistically calling out the absurdity. This guy has no clothes. I mean, it's laughable, putting a mirror up to his conduct and his behavior. That's what our Patriot store is all about. That's what our knee pads are all about. It's also calling out universities, and we're being clear and concise about that, calling out law firms, calling out the media, calling out the complicity of major corporate leaders, calling people out that are allowing this democracy to erode in real time. So
do you think it's working? I mean,
I'll judge. I'll leave that to other people to judge. But you know what?
What are you hearing though?
I'm trying to be accountable. I'm not. There's, with all due respect, I have no interest in being complicit at this moment, and I'm going to be firm and forceful in my defense of this democracy, our republic.
It seems like it's breaking through. Honestly, I was in Thailand this summer trying to ignore the news, and your social media strategy was coming through my feed, even in non-political circles. I talked to a friend this morning in London who said she's hearing people talk about you there. What is the reaction you're getting from the base?
It's been unbelievable. I mean, we have almost 1.2 million people who've contributed to the Prop 50 campaign in less than 90 days. Raised $40 million online.
That's from not just California?
All over the country. People,
why do they care so much?
Because people understand what's at stake, and they want to see people stand up and have their backs and fight. As opposed, again, it's just we're so damn weak as a party. And I think here's the good news. I think Prop 50 is going to be a part of it, but this party is. I'm so optimistic about the future of the Democratic Party. I think what happens after November, the kind of momentum, the wind in our sail. I like what I'm seeing out of our federal leaders and Speaker Jeffries and Schumer right now. I like what's happening. I was just with Congresswoman Cheryl yesterday on a Zoom call in terms of the work she's doing in New Jersey. She's going to be the new governor there. We're going to have a new governor in Virginia. We're going to win Prop 50. We're going to be back on our toes. We're going to have momentum going into 2026, and we're taking it to this guy. We're winning in these lower courts. We got challenges in some of the appellate courts, but we keep winning. This guy is historic president, historically unpopular in every key area. 7 million people showed up at the No Kings rally because they haven't given up and given in to cynicism. And so we're going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep fighting for the things that we hold dear. And I think one of the things you can't take for granted anymore is the whole structure of co-equal branches of government, popular sovereignty, these fundamental enduring values that are all now at stake if we don't assert ourselves more clearly.
We're getting to the end. We like to close with something a little lighter. The Dodgers are in the World Series against the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm wondering who you're rooting for. You're a San Franciscan, essentially.
Well,
Canada is at war with Trump.
I know. Well, at peril, I haven't lost enough viewers or people that are listening. But I'll say it as a lifelong Giants fan, as challenging as it is, go Dodgers.
Wouldn't it be nice, though, to see Canada beat the U.S.?
No.
No, not at all.
No, I still have pride in my state, my country, and love my Canadian brethren and friends. I don't want them as my 51st state. I don't believe they should be at the National Governors Association. But I don't. My state of mind is home state, and come on, Ohtani. That was. You can say what you want. You can hate all you want. All my friendly Giants fans, but come on. That's just different.
It's impressive.
You got to and experience greatness at that level. Come on.
All right.
Good as it gets.
I got one more question before we let you go. Your family recently moved back down to the Bay Area after several years up outside Sacramento. What's the best part of being back for you and your kids?
Just familiarity, serendipity, running into people, smells, places, seasons. Walking down a sidewalk, realizing, wait, I rode my bike here at 15 years old. Memories, all comes back home.
You don't
Is it fun to have that for your kids too? Because they were pretty
and they
young
get to
when you guys
experience
moved
it
up.
through my eyes, and we said that's where my mom. We moved here, and hey, that's we actually that was old business that I had and we struggle with, and that's out of it. All this. I mean, to be able to share all that, those memories, old movie theaters or something, all that. That's special.
All right, we are going to leave it there. Governor Gavin Newsom, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Good to be with you.
That's going to be a wrap for Friday, October 24th. Political Breakdown's a production of KQED.
Our engineer is Brian Douglas. Our producer is Izzy Bloom. Thanks also to Matt Morales, Alex Tran, Jennifer Ng, and Maha Sanad. Our team includes Guy Marzorati, Molly Solomon, Otis R. Taylor Jr., and Ethan Tobin Lindsay. I am Marisa Lagos, here with Scott Shafer. Thanks for listening.